Basically, one of the biggest kind of triggers for, and there goes my cat, knocking the camera over. Hey friends, so welcome back to my channel. So as promised today, I just wanted to give you kind of a more in-depth video about antepartum or prenatal depression, kind of how I'm dealing with it and how I figured out that I had it, because it still seems to me that it's kind of not very something that doctors necessarily will pick up on. So it takes a minute to adjust. So what is antepartum or prenatal depression? Basically, it is similar depressive, like depression symptoms that you have, but you have it while you're pregnant, and sometimes, well, not before you're pregnant. You have it while you're pregnant instead of after pregnancy. I feel like there is a lot of emphasis on postpartum depression, and a lot of people that have antepartum depression are actually at risk for getting postpartum, so it's kind of a catch-22. But I feel like there's not a lot of like information or really a lot of like a lot of people really talking about it. And I'll kind of explain my experience and explain what I've been trying to do to manage it and kind of how I've been feeling lately. But basically, a lot of like your biggest symptoms for depression are just like your normal, like just feeling down, feeling helpless, feeling worthless, loss of motivation, things you want to do, and irritability is actually one too. Something that like I didn't really notice, but like basically we planned for this baby in the sense of we stopped all birth control and we kind of were seeing what happens, and we had actually been doing that for about 6 months, just kind of, you know, not really like tracking or anything. I did start tracking maybe towards like the last 3 months, just out of like curiosity of like making sure I was still ovulating. But it was kind of telling because I found out I was pregnant, and I would say probably about a week and a half later, I literally just felt like completely, the best way to describe it is just like sad that I was pregnant. I wasn't happy about it. I almost regretted getting pregnant. I mean, part of it was we'd been trying for a while, and I kind of, I guess, started to get used to the idea of just having the 3 kids. And you know, there's a lot of I guess unknowns when you add another baby, especially when you're already at 3, adding a 4th baby. A lot of people say that, you know, it was the greatest thing. A lot of people say it was the straw that broke the camel's back. And so, and sometimes it feels like people's perception of you changes, because in general, in our society, most people generally have maybe 1 or 2 kids, or at least around where I live, though, there actually are more like 3-kid families. But it seems to me that most people, if you have like, especially if you have like a boy and a girl, like most people expect you to be done. And then a lot of times if you know, because like we had 2 girls, and then, oh yeah, of course you're going to try for a boy, which is a whole other issue that I might touch on later. But I was really struggling, and then I started to get really bad morning sickness, which I found out was actually a big trigger for like prenatal depression. Because when you're sick all the time, I mean, I was sick for 6.5 weeks, and we're not talking like just kind of nauseous. We're talking from the moment I woke up to when I went to bed. I threw up multiple times a day. I could like only, and it was frustrating because like for 1 week I could only eat something like top ramen or something really bland, and then the next week, if I even thought about it, it made me want to throw up. Or mashed potatoes, just really really bland stuff. I was so sick, and it was really hard on me because I had 3 kids to take care of. And at that time too, my husband was working out of town during the week and only home on the weekends. So I was terrified that if I, you know, just couldn't handle it or whatever, like I didn't have anyone to call. And that's something that like we've kind of struggled with too, is just not really having a support system. I mean, we have people here and we have friends, but like that that was one thing that I was worried about, you know, because a lot of people watch 1 kid, a lot of people watch 2, but when you hit like 3 to 4 kids, you find that people aren't as, you know, open to watch your kids. And I get it. I mean, 4 is a lot of kids for a lot of people. But it's also hard because you want to have a big family. You almost have to sacrifice like being able to go do things, unless you can find somebody that's totally willing. Or like we have a couple girls that will come watch our kids, so it's 2 against 3 instead of, you know, 1 against 4 or 3 or 4. So I I was really struggling. And one of the biggest things that was like kind of like a click in my mind for, okay, this is more than just like being sad or being stressed, was just like I could not like get myself excited about this pregnancy. And I still to this day struggle with it. So I remember it was probably, and I was thinking maybe after the morning sickness is over, I'll feel better, 12 weeks or so. And morning sickness didn't really fully go away until closer to 14 weeks. And I remember, I think I was at my 14 or 15-week appointment, and I tried to say something to my doctor. I mean, like, I'm kind of struggling, not really excited about this pregnancy. And I guess maybe I didn't word it right, but like her response was very just like, well, you just need to let that go. Not everybody's excited about their pregnancy. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I literally wake up every morning regretting I'm pregnant. And I had a little scare in, I think I was probably about 10 or 11 weeks along. And I had some bleeding, so I had to go into the ER because that's what the protocol. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, I don't think I'd be too upset if this was a miscarriage, which I know is horrible, and I'm sure I'm going to get terrible comments for that. But that is right up, and that's depression. Like was the depression talking, not me. And it was kind of frustrating because I felt like really blown off by my doctor. And so, after that, I've been doing a lot of like research online. I don't have the money or time to go to a counselor because that's always the suggestion. And kind of after trying to open up to some people about it, and just people just don't know how to react to it because they think, well, you're pregnant with a healthy baby. You shouldn't be upset. Like there's something wrong with you if you're upset, or, if you just feel like you can't handle it. So it's hard to open up about it. And I do think if you can find somebody that you trust to talk about it and that they won't judge you, then that's great. But just know sometimes that's hard to find, and maybe that's why you need a counselor. But I would say you need to find somebody that's specifically trained in like prenatal depression, even postnatal, because they can at least understand a little bit where you're coming from. Because the problem is all the hormones in your body are changing. And part of it too, I was weaning my son at about the same time that I got pregnant. So your hormones shift when you stop breastfeeding too. So it was probably just a dangerous cocktail, for lack of better words. So one of the things that I've been doing to try to like handle it is, and I'm not a doctor, so please check with your prenatal specialist or your OB or whatever if you have any concerns. Talk to them and see what they suggest. But after talking a little bit more, I started taking magnesium and vitamin D because they are natural, like antidepressive type compounds, and they're safe to take during pregnancy. But like I said, make sure you double check. The other thing that's kind of helped is just trying to stay in a routine. But part of the problem is when you're struggling with depression, staying in a routine is really hard. Like even just getting the house clean. So I have to like sometimes just narrow my focus down to like one thing. Like what one thing can I get done today? Like today it's probably going to be laundry, but like compared to other things, it's just really hard to figure out how to sometimes you need to stay focused, sometimes you need to just have a day where you need to just rest and recuperate and let your body just do what it needs to do. The other thing that I feel like has helped me is exercising. I go to the gym still on a regular basis, 2 to 3 days a week, depending on how busy I am with other things. And I do feel like even just walking helps. I mean, the reason why I go to the gym is because it has childcare, so I'm able to walk without, chasing kids around. But I mean, hopefully this spring, when things get a little bit better, I can, get out with our kids more and just get everyone outside and get more sunshine, because I do believe the vitamin D is a big benefit to people, and especially like where we live, it's really dark and dreary during the winter months, so you have to be careful because seasonal affective disorder is pretty common around here just because it's dark and and you don't get enough vitamin D because you're not really getting any sunlight. So I think one of the other things that's really helped me overall is knowing that this isn't going to last, that the way I'm feeling right now is due to hormone shifts, and it's due to a lot of unknowns, fear of the unknowns. And part of what has helped me to kind of like, sometimes you need to like write down what your fears are. Like, what are you afraid of? Like, I'm afraid that 4 kids is going to just be too much for my husband and I. And what if he has to work out of town again and I'm solo parenting with 4 kids? I have to figure out how to handle that. I have to, and maybe I need to look into other resources. One of the things, like I said, I have the gym. The gym's been really helpful because it's allowed me to get a break. And when this baby's 6 weeks old, they can be added to the gym membership and I can start taking them to the childcare. Maybe reaching out to people. I'm going to try to reach out to more people, and because I do have some family around, and maybe I just need to set up, hey, once, twice a month, can you come watch the kids so that we can go have a date night or just be able to be ourselves? Because I think it's really important to get time to yourselves, time as a couple, and even time as yourself. My husband's in town more often now, so, and his work schedule is a little bit more consistent. So like even at night, I can, like last night I was like, I need to go to bed early. I don't feel good, just kind of emotionally too. And I feel like him being able to put the kids to bed while I went to bed around the same time really helps. So, I mean, a lot of it is you almost kind of have to write it out. If it gets really, really bad, talk to your doctor. There are medications that are safe to take or safer to take during pregnancy. And that is something that I think a lot of people struggle with because it's like, you know, they don't want to be taking medicine, but unfortunately, like, you might need to. So, but I hope that was helpful. I mean, it's a hard thing to talk about, but I do want to mention it because I want people to not be afraid to talk about it. And I also want people to understand that, like, I think they say like almost a quarter of women struggle with it. And so that makes me feel a little bit better knowing that you're not alone. And there's a lot of people out there that are dealing with the same things. So anyway, kind of a deep video for this time, but hopefully that was helpful, and thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.